relatively recently, I found out that being a descendant of the old Spanish Trail was actually a thing. And I got very excited about the work that the Old Spanish Trail has done to show the trail. Going on to their website, you can get 360 views along the trail. It's the most incredible website, and it really made real for me the trip that these people took. Now, this Workman Roland group that they went with in 1841 was an interesting group of people. There were a few Americans, there were a number of Spanish, like our family. There were many Native Americans who came as well, in addition to Canazaros, those people that were in New Mexico and grew up in the church, became supporters of the Americans, both as being guides, Native American fighters. They were people that were of great use in our family's life at the time. So this trip, if you can imagine walking, I cannot imagine walking, but they went all the way from Abiquiu, New Mexico, to letting out in Los Angeles at the La Pueblo de Los Angeles. It's a long way. It's very rough terrain. The only person, and this was a family memory that was passed on, little Nestora, the little 4-year-old, she came on muleback along with her cousin. So it was only the very smallest, or maybe, I don't even know if there was anybody frail on the trip, but we always heard that the little Nestora came on muleback. Once they got to California, then they took it upon themselves to walk up to Vacaville. It took them 2 months on the trail, which is, I don't know, I would still be walking. These people only took 2 months to make that trip, and then took 4 months to go up California. It was a very rainy winter that year, and apparently they were quite miserable, and they went from mission to mission. All of the missions were within ostensibly 1 day's walking distance from each other. The mission system was already being secularized. That is to say, they were no longer for the purpose that they were originally intended. They were starting to be disbanded. Lands were being given away. That's how my family got this land. So I want to talk about, why did they choose Vacaville? Well, they chose Vacaville, I think, for a number of reasons, and I believe that their choice came back in New Mexico, not as sometimes the history says that it happened when they were already in California. No, they already knew where they were going to go to live. They were used to being out in the middle of nowhere. And Vallejo, who was in charge of the secularization of the missions of the Sonoma mission, really wanted to get people up here. This was pretty much the edge of nowhere at the time. We had the Russians coming in to, Fort Ross. There were Americans potentially coming in, and there were many native incursions along here, because when we talk about getting lands that were Vallejo's lands were Indian lands. And the original agreement had been that the missions would give to the Native Americans half of the land for all the work that they did. Whether that was ever meant to be kept, it certainly wasn't kept, and all of the lands that belonged to the Native Americans were given away. Now, when Vallejo made the call to come to this area up here, he said, come and we'll give you lands, we'll give you Indians to build your adobe, we'll give you seeds so that you can make plants, we'll give you everything you need. Come here. Well, after their first trip, and some of the Peñas and our Mijos came here early to really check this out, the story in my family had been, and I've never been able to prove this, it really was a story that was passed down through time, was that they could have chosen land in Los Angeles at, they said, Hollywood and Vine. Now, I don't know if that was an embellishment, but that was the story, was that they could have chosen land in Los Angeles somewhere around Hollywood and Vine. It certainly wasn't anything down there, and the reason why they didn't want that land was because there was not the kind of growing land that this is up here. Plus, these people were in the 30s to begin with, so it looked like, whether it was they were more comfortable living out in the wilderness, I don't know, but they certainly were living in the wilderness by choosing this location. So that's the story of how we got these lands. And they had been, there were certain conditions that they needed to make if they were to accept this land grant. They had to have cattle, they had to build a house, and they had to be able to produce their food. So, you know, it took a couple of years for that to come about, and that's when this house was built. So my family walked from Los Angeles up to Vacaville, visiting each of the missions, finally arriving in this area of the Lagoon Valley and around 1842. And that's the end of the story about my family's travel to Lagoon Valley.